Bam! Trail Boss. Back again with the 243 Winchester, loading up the RCBS 24495 once again. And we are changing powders here, switching gears. I totally forgot about this one on my list that I'd started. I was up to 5 powders to try. Now I have 6. Any guesses? Bam! Trail Boss. There's not a whole lot left, but enough to play with. Good for nice reduced loads, cast projectiles and whatnot. So we did what it tells you. You fill the case up to where your bottom of your bullet would be. That's your maximum charge. And then you take about 60% of that. That's your starting charge. But I'm starting at our maximum charge and working down in half-grain increments. And our maximum charge should be somewhere right around 1600 or 1650 based on the Hodgdon data with a 100 grain jacketed bullet. So we might be a little faster, might be a little slower. We'll have to see. We might run the chronograph if weather cooperates, but it's going to be raining all weekend, so I might not even be able to get out. And as per the request of James Pollard here, we are going to do the one motion seating. None of the tap and turn and double touching and whatever. And so far, they seem fairly consistent. It's just a feeling thing in my brain, you know, whatever. But measuring CBTO, we should be 2269. There we are. And that's exactly where all these others have been. So that is just freaking perfect. I've already done the maximum charge and then one step down from there. So we are working on 14.3 grains with this one. And it's sort of hard to see, but our case fill is still right up there. If you're unfamiliar with Trail Boss, I'll give you a little tour here in a second. Oh yeah, one motion, there we go. See, well, you technically shouldn't have to seat halfway and turn and seat and do all this like I normally do. I know that, I'm aware of that. But for whatever reason, I got into a habit of it with my cast projectiles. Every once in a while, you know, depending on where you're sitting, I might set it crooked or some nonsense that I should know better to do not, you know. But I feel that that helps it kind of straighten out and not bulge out to one side or the other so bad. But there's other people that have tested that and said if you're going to get any amount of run out, you can't fix it. It's just, it is what it is if you're seating it that way. So a quarter turn or a half turn to try to bend it back, that's not a real thing. Says the data of others, but I've not tested it. I'm just going off of feel. And we all know that feelings mean way more than hard data. But with proper expansion of your case mouth, your cast bullets should be easily seated without any scraping or whatnot. So, you know, do proper brass prep and you won't have to worry about it, I reckon. But oh yeah, let's take a look at the Trail Boss. Some people call them like ballistic Cheerios, essentially. It's a very bulky, I guess a flake powder, but it's pretty much like a donut or a ring shape. And that's what 14.3 grains looks like. It almost fills up the case. Our max charge is 15.3, and that's like halfway up the shoulder. And then if you seat your bullet in that, it fills in the negative space around it. So very dense, very bulky, and very light for the amount of space it takes up. In fact, this bottle that's normally going to hold a pound of powder only holds 9 ounces. And that bad boy is like right to the top where the little sticker seals it in, you know. But unfortunately, it's apparently very hard to manufacture. And it's been out of production since probably early 2020, if not, the end of 2019 or whenever that last run of it was. And ever since then, they've just been jacking the price of Varget and Tight Group and all the other classics you're going to want. Oh yeah. But whatever, we're in some crazy times, folks. The market's nuts. Powders are going for $60 to $70 retail. Oh, gosh dang. Well, I shouldn't have ran that. I needed to lower the charge. It's like I was saying, the powder market is insane these days. Apparently there's, international conflicts and St. Mark's and all the other actual powder manufacturers can't get their supplies. So there's a nitrocellulose shortage. Something about Chinese cotton and all this fun stuff. Let's pour that one back in, and now we need 13.8 grains. Like I said, we're working backwards. And I am still very impressed and enjoying the ChargeMaster Link here. I lied. We have the ChargeMaster Lite without the Bluetooth, but it works perfect for me. It actually, I don't need the Bluetooth and save my loads. I know exactly what I'm using because it's on the paper here in front of me. So anyways, on top of the supply shortage of the ingredients needed to make the powders, we have Alliant Powder, which is pretty much the only company in the US not owned by Hodgdon Powder Company. If you're unaware, a few years ago Hodgdon purchased Accurate Powders, Ramshot Powders, and Blackhorn. So now they're under the Hodgdon umbrella with Hodgdon, IMR, and Winchester. So now they have Accurate, Ramshot, and Blackhorn, like I said. So every single powder in the US you could ever get comes from the Hodgdon Powder Company, unless it's an Alliant Powder, which is owned by Vista Outdoors. And Vista Outdoors owns Remington, Federal, CCI, Spear, all these companies, Blazer, all these companies that load their own ammunition. And for their factory ammunition, I'm pretty sure they almost exclusively use Alliant powders that they manufacture on their own, or other, OEM blends that only they get as a loader of ammunition. So there's already a shortage of Alliant powders because it's going to the factory ammo. And then, like I said, the other 5 companies, 6 if you're into black powder, are, black powder substitutes. Those companies are all owned by one company who can fix the prices and basically control the entire market. Now, you can also find Vitavori powders. Those are imported from Finland, I believe, through the Capstone Precision Group. And if you're unaware, Capstone, they own Lapua and Berger and SK Ammunition, potentially a couple others, but they're the high-end, fancy, precision sort of end of the market. And if you've been following the powder market for a couple years, since perhaps before the shortages and the pandemic and all that started, Vitavori was the top shelf, most expensive. It was almost $40 a pound when you could get Varget for $30, right? Nowadays, a pound of Varget, $55 to $65, and Vitavori is still sitting at maybe $45 to $50 a pound. And that's for their high energy 500 series rifle powders. And then if you get an 8-pound jug, I just got some N135 8-pound jug. That was only $300 when there's like Some of these other companies are charging $400 plus, almost $500 for an 8-pound jug of that stuff. That's, you know, bottled in America and whatever, and doesn't have to be imported and whatever. So it just seems weird that there's basically one company in control of the entire supply. And, you know, prices have at least doubled. And as far as primers, you know, it's getting better on the small pistol, small rifle. And I guess large pistols are starting to come back, or weren't ever really super rare. But large rifles are still completely MIA. And that goes back to the first shortage of the powders, because it's all in military contracts, and all the large rifle primers are probably going into some 7.62 by 51. Just my guess. Just a random guess, you know. As well as all of the factory hunting ammunition is pretty much 100% large rifle primers. Any of your standard hunting calibers you guys are used to, you can imagine large rifle primer that goes towards all of that production essentially. So between all the powder going to factory ammo and all the primers people are wanting to reload with, all that's going to factory ammo or military contracts or government or whoever isn't the civilian market. We still have shortages, man. Oh, and along with that, all the primers are owned by Vista Outdoors, except Winchester. So CCI, Remington, Federal, those are your main primer manufacturers here in the US. And then you have Winchester. They're on their own. So Vista Outdoors has control over all the primers. Winchester just has to play nice and keep up. And most of their stuff probably goes to Lake City military contracts and stuff like that as well, along with all of the Winchester hunting ammunition that they load. And of course, I'm sure Winchester ammunition gets priority from Hodgdon to produce their ammunition for them, right? They wouldn't cut themselves at the knee to supply something else or whatever, you know? So there's like two umbrellas in the entire industry that control 90% of everything else. And, you know, we're doing the best we can. We're working the numbers and well, it's still going up. Strange times. Sorry, I'm not normally a rambler about these sorts of things, but it's just getting quite ridiculous, folks. But guess what? We're all freaking nuts, and we're going to keep paying it to keep doing what we want to do or feel we need done. Feel we need is done. You know, just that one more 8-pound jug and you'll be set for the next apocalypse or two. But then you need training ammo, so we just need one more 8-pound jug to get through the season or the year. Or heaven forbid you're a competition shooter that, you know, your cost has at least doubled to train with, to compete with. And that's like recreation, and that's what people do for fun and their hobby and whatever. But it is what it is. I guess you have to pay to play, and that is life. Deal with it, nerd. Get over it. Enough of all that. We're here loading some 243 Winchester here, back at the overall length of 2509, where we have approximately 5 thousandths of jump rather than jamming. And I actually have 10 verification loads with 9 grains of red dot. No gas checks on these, whereas I am loading gas checks with the Trail Boss. But we're testing the proven powder charge at a proven overall length, and we're just verifying that it's very similar with or without the gas checks again. So I've got 10 of those, and then my next 25 we have a Trail Boss to test with. So that's the plan here, folks. That is the plan here. And yes, if you've been noticing, all one swipe of the press handle. So I guess we'll measure that, you know, see if it affects our groups positively or negatively, or if it has no effect at all. If we were just wasting all that time running the handle 2 or 3 times, essentially doubling our work, I guess, if you want to look at it like that. Hit that for the last one there. So yeah, we could have been creating extra work, but we're going to measure the groups here with our trail boss, confirm the red dot, and it's going to be good stuff. Let's see if our CBTO has held up. Should be 2269. Oh my gosh, look at that. It's perfect. Cool. I have 2 pieces of brass left. Should I load the max charge or the middle charge or the starting charge or what? I'll just do them at this first charge and have a 7-shot group so I can, you know, get settled in and comfortable, and yeah. How about that? We'll have extra data for the first group. And another fun fact, we're actually using large pistol primers. Back to the discussion on the lack of large rifle primers in the market. We are running large pistol primers that are capable of withstanding the lower pressures of our much reduced loads here. And I've heard tale that, you know, until you're pushing, you know, velocities and actually jacketed loads or whatever, your pistol primers should be just fine. Now, do note that your large rifle primers sit taller, so these large pistol primers are going to sit a little bit shallow there. I don't think we're going to have any ignition problems, but just take note of that. And if you were to try a rifle primer into a piece of pistol brass or something that normally takes large pistol primers, those are going to be proud of the case head, and that could definitely cause a slam fire or some other mishap. If you have them in a cylinder of your revolver and you try to spin it, that primer is going to be sitting proud there, and use your imagination. Luckily, we had enough here to fill this case. The Charge Master was just spinning its wheels there trying to get some out, but that's the end of the old Trail Boss there, folks. It's all gone. All 9 ounces of it took me 3 years to work through, just piddling around with silly stuff like this. But anyways, that's all good. Thanks for hanging out, folks. Stay tuned for the range trip. We're going to be verifying 9 grains of red dot at the overall length with a tiny bit of jump. And then we're going to be testing our Trail Boss 5-shot groups for 5 different charges, except our starting charge right there will have 7. So thanks for hanging out, folks. Make sure to go check out dummyroundreloading.com, and we will see you in the next video. Have a good one.